Yeah, they're gonna get started. Order. We do record the meeting, so that we could post it on YouTube and, for anyone not able to join, take a look afterwards. So, if anyone has any issue, the camera is right over here, so feel free to wait from that, but, otherwise, we'll get started. Yeah, I think we're ready to go. So, just so you know, my name is Jared Noble, I'm president, and introduction from the other executives.
Hi, I'm Brian LaCour, I'm treasurer of NACA.
Missy Hayward, secretary.
Anyone else like to introduce themselves? Okay, well, yeah, we do have some officers who are out sick or whatnot, so, let's go ahead and move on to reviewing and approving June and August meeting minutes. So it should have been available at the table. And anyone who was able to get a copy, take a quick look and let me know if there's any questions.
The most important part of the August minutes is the third page, has phone numbers and contact information for all of our guests last month.
Yep.
I didn't have to join us from the city.
Okay, well, if there's nothing coming up, then we'll just go ahead and say we have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right, got a second? A second, all right, all those in favor of approving minutes? All right, any opposed? All right, great, awesome, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
All right, let's Ryan, are you ready for a treasurer's report?
Yes, now I realize that I'm gonna have to switch off my phone in a minute.
All right, so we're gonna have a financial report from our treasurer.
Okay. Everyone, from the board, treasurer NACA. Quick summary for August. We have $2,424.96 in our general fund. $13,084.70 in our beautification fund. Of which $3,461.11 are available for spending. We have 147 members. By contrast, this time last year, we have 74 members, and before that, we had 105. So we've about doubled our membership since last year, which is really great. Thanks to our membership drive, and look forward to building on that in the future. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Your camera is on selfie.
Yeah, I know.
There it is.
Okay.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, so, just to let you know, if you haven't been here before, there's a gym with weights above, so it might be slamming down. So it might start like, all right, so next up is announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Camille Cook. I'm going to be quick, but I work with Public Citizen, which is an organization that deals with generally issues like political ethics, environment, and energy. Currently, we're working on a campaign to pressure our elected officials to shut down the Fayette coal plant. It's about 30% of the entire city's emissions and was already scheduled to be shut down in 2022. So it's already past its use case. If you're interested, I was hoping to leave some of these documents back there. That's generally it. I don't know what to do.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. You'll be around for talking about it.
I'll be here a little bit.
All right. Great. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, oh, sorry. The newsletter is
there's a lot more of it. And there's a lot more people getting it. So the next issue of the newsletter, we're going to invite people to receive the newsletter by email. Some folks I know already do. But it's getting to where it was one thing when we had 74 members like you saw, and it was a front and back sheet. It's another thing when we have 174 members and it's 2 front and back sheets. That's a huge increase in volume. And we want to try to cut down on postage costs, paper costs, all those other costs. So that will be in the next newsletter. And yes,
Who wants to cut down on that? But the executive committee didn't ask you to.
no, I want to cut down.
Okay, well, executive committee offered to find a printing and a mailing, some options too.
Why, why don't we give people an option if they want the.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm gonna give people the option. If you're interested in getting it by email, right now there's about 8 members that do. If we had more members that did, that would benefit everybody. I'm not trying to undo what the executive committee team is doing. Okay,
Why would the readership increase and then the newsletter should be the same size? You said now that we got 100. Now,
well, the reason, it
4
was-
pages long instead of 3, instead of 2.
the reason it was smaller
Okay,
was because we had so few members, we couldn't afford to make it any bigger. It used to be 8 pages,
okay.
so that's the reason why. All right.
Also, what Mark didn't mention is that he and his wife were printing all of this at home on their own printer.
Yeah.
That's why it's such an onerous task. Also, it's modern age and a lot of people do prefer to read things electronically nowadays, so it's a convenience rather than not necessarily just skimming.
The disadvantage of doing it this way is that the only people who get it are the people whose email addresses you have. And I remember back when we used to print enough copies and had enough people to distribute them that they gave it to everybody in the neighborhood.
That is true. And we could go back to that model.
With us and stuff like that. That's the major disadvantage. If you could figure out some way to overcome that, I'd agree
So-
with you, but.
We did that back when we had advertisers. And so you would
Well,
need,
you did it before that.
we did it before that, we had a grant from St. David's to cover it. And we had an army of volunteers. So,
So yeah, just to follow up on that point real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone does have inroads to any advertisers, that is something that would help in our efforts and also support local business.
Well, I want to offer help because secretary helps with communications and newsletter. And I want to offer help. So I think the email version sounds like a win-win, but I was just surprised to hear that those issues come up, that there's some concerns about resources and processes, and I would love to continue to try to help with that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, are there any other announcements? Okay. Well, I was hoping you might be able to come up and help me out with that. Oh, yeah, that's a great call.
T-shirt
I forgot to mention
and
that.
logo.
There is Davey is in the back, tables, and we are putting up, we're coming up with a new t-shirt design and a new logo. And so if you could please put in the vote, so we can decide, we're really excited about having a new t-shirt to get it out to our new members and yeah, so feel free to ask her if you have any questions.
Yeah, well, we had a conversation with Gregory Milligan, yesterday evening. He's the, basically the intermediary, terminology is the receiver for the property at the 8806, 8807, Redfield Land Park Complex.
And it's part of the negotiated settlement between the owner, the property management company and the city.
So, he's going to be taking over the task of getting the property sorted out. The people who are there out and getting it stored where it should be and getting tenants in and then sale of property.
So, yeah, his plan for that first prong is to get a clean slate of occupants, residents there, and to have them vetted and paying their fair share of rents and stabilizing it by getting new residents in there.
Yeah, and we talked about the two different covenants that the property has. One, the federal covenant that's got a 9 years remaining on its duration, and seeing about possibility of that getting removed. And secondly, the covenant that the city of Boston has on it about the homeless. And Chico Bella was very interested in including that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Gregory was talking about we may have missed the deadline for the October meeting on the 5th. And it will have to go 2 weeks into October for the possibility of that getting concluded.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have like a special meeting, a special vote for this.
So
Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, all right.
What is this?
the property, was known as the Rangery apartment complexes, which is
Okay.
now the Redfield 34.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Can you briefly describe the history? When was it purchased? When were these government contracts put on them?
Well,
Who owned it before? Was it private?
it was private, however, Russell Artman came. There was one owner, right? And he had it was basically under Section 8 housing because it had a federal covenant for low income housing. And there was all kinds of different families that were there, were gonna be issues, right?
For years.
And the property was
Oh,
sold.
just because those covenants are tied to the deed and they were put into place years ago, was my understanding. And so,
Right, and then the city of Austin ended up putting a covenant on the property to have it slated for housing of the homeless, right? So I believe that was in 2020. And that's the timeframe when Russell Artman took ownership of the property, and the city of Austin actually incentivized displacement of the occupants for the cost of $3,000 each. And
through Echo.
yeah, through Echo, and these are, indigenous people, people of color, low income, good families, people that work for a living, just want to be making a better life for themselves. Well, so those people ended up leaving all for one, and there were all the new tenants were basically ranked from lowest risk to highest risk for different tiers. Like say if you had challenges with drugs, criminal history, various problems, right?
Very difficult
And all
to
these
manage.
people needed specialized help. Well, they took this amalgamation of 40 or so of the worst cases and put them all in the same place with no oversight and free reign.
And yeah, the owner, Mr. Artman, just way in over his head, never dealt with anything like this. And really the structure of the complex just didn't lend itself to being able to manage a population like this. So it just quickly deteriorated over time, and it's just been like a long time of crime and violence, and it's just been run the whole gamut. And it's just been a real focus of topic with our community and making sure that there's change and making sure that the city righted the wrong. And they've been in legal proceedings for the past couple months, and finally, came to a negotiation, which involves getting this receiver to come in on behalf of the owner and the city to take the funds that are in the building and to do what's needed to stabilize the property, and then also get it ready to be sold to a new buyer. So it's been on listed for some time now, and they're going to be planning to adjust the price to, basically cleaning up the place, doing infrastructure change that's going to be paid for by insurance owned by the property owner, and just get it ready. And it sounds like that it's going to be a very attractive building because it's still going to have that low income component to it for 9 more years, which is Yeah, that's why we're doing now.
So what about the current residents are they being evicted?
Well, the, Echo had placed the residents that were there, legally, right? So during one of the meetings we had here with Cheeto Vela, he had stated that it's Echo's responsibility to rehome these people. And
So they have,
when we spoke with Gregory yesterday, he had told us that the people who could be rehomed had been, and the ones who hadn't, I think there was 5 or 6.
Mhm.
They had all had criminal histories, and to be honest, they shouldn't have been allowed to be on the property to begin with. There's the near high school, there's Woolridge Elementary School, there's the school for, it's not that London, but it's. So, yeah, exactly, it's trouble youth, it's,
yeah,
it's totally not conducive to, criminal elements. And narcotics, prostitution, burglary, theft,
Yeah.
murder, homicide, drug overdose. It's not reasonable to have any kind of rational or logical side. Period.
yeah, so, I mean, there's just been a lot of push to get to this point, and based off our conversation with him, it seemed like it's very promising that he has a timeline that's short in duration,
Yeah.
and he is gonna be a point of contact for us. We're gonna have regular updates with him and over Zoom, just to, he's only been there a week, but we're going to, based off what we discussed yesterday, kind of follow up and see if there's any big changes, but sounds like it's on the right track.
So will the buyer be purchasing it with the homeless contract in place?
Well, I mean, the homeless covenant is, the city's planning to vote to take that off. But the low income federal covenant will remain on it for years, is kind of what it looks like.
And that's part of the reason why the listing price have been like, because it's not worth the 5.2 million it's listed at. That's a component of the homeless covenant monies being attached to it. Right? So once that's removed, the actual value of what it is will be in place. So,
Yeah, question.
So the federal part of it is project-based section A, is that correct?
It's not exact,
I'm not certain on that.
it's similar.
However, it is, I do know that there's 9 years remaining on it, and there's a possibility that that covenant can be removed premature.
Typically, I think on project-based section A, originally, a lot of those 20 years in the beginning. And, of course, they were supposed to be doing all of the screening and everything they're supposed to. And that obviously that didn't happen,
Right.
I mean, he said that it's not necessarily, he doesn't think it's section 8 specifically, technically, but it's similar to that. So if that is something that you want to know about, it can get you a better idea.
Well, I do know that the people who moved in under Russell Hartman's ownership of the property, they were all supposed to have caseworkers who were helping them and having on-site help. And there's nothing that compelled them to receive the on-site help, right? So they could feel free to act however they liked. Property is not conducive to having people who aren't capable of running their lives. It's open on all sides. There's been animals, there's nowhere for their animals to go except for in the street, and it's problematic.
Yeah.
It's not set up and designed for that demographic.
So yeah, so in my mind, the way I phrase it is that project was failed, and now it's kind of a phase 1. And so the city has learned from that mistake, and they have been doing a phase 2, which is more like Caritas. If any of you are familiar, that's a development in the area that's, I believe, is still under construction, but there's it's like doing it through, and they know what they're doing. With this, actually, we have Monica who's on the board here.
Yeah, that's all lovely. Sparrow is over on Rutland. And I think it's just the last minute stuff as far as construction. I know there was a setback, cost and energy and stuff, but it's still supposed to be on target for starting to move people in. I believe in January, they were already gonna be working on applications. I believe starting this month. Yeah.
Good. I know Gregory, we asked you about how quickly can you like once people who aren't supposed to be there are removed from the equation, how quickly do you think you can get the whole place full up? He gave an estimate of about 90 days. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, it's not to say that, we're taking care of crime in the area, obviously that's still an issue. And.
yeah, and to the person who sent out the email question of what were the police doing there 3 days ago, there was a burglary suspect who they had tracked back to two of the apartments at that location, at that address. And he evaded the police, started jumping over fences, and he had hid, and then he was taken by the police afterwards.
Oh,
I can just say from the code side, I don't deal with the people. We did have 4 units boarded up, 3 or 4 units, I think on 8806. And I know 8807 has been dealing with no gas, and I did talk to Greg, I think today, and they have the money, they've got the contracts, they got the plumbers in line, but they need to restore the gas in that property so they can have hot water. All that was vandalized. I did get an email yesterday or day before from robberies, asking us, what are we on this property? But like you all know, we don't deal with the people, we just deal with the structure, any violation. But fire has reached out to us also, knowing that we knew that they have gas, yes, we know. So everybody has an eye on this property. They do have, even council's eye. I haven't gotten a request lately because I know Bella knew that this was happening. So, but we're on it and we're constantly we wrote a citation on Monday. I was telling Jeff, for the mattress and the tractors there. We've been waiting, and then we're still gonna see how this receiver really works, for us to communicating and getting this, because ultimately we just want the property to be maintained.
Right.
That's all.
And, I'm a resident of Redfield. Rob just showed up, as a resident as well, very local. And, we have a very diverse block and we just want to be able to walk outside, get together, 2 block parties, all that kind of stuff. Feel safe. Yeah, and it looks like that's what's happening and it's the receiver is very impartial. It's focused on the job at hand to get it sold.
Good.
Yeah, I think so.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Yeah, go back, yeah.
So for the members you said that have criminal history and were not able to be removed, who would we be able to talk to in terms of, are they being given any resources or anything? My concern is if someone with a criminal history is unhoused, and they aren't given any resources, I don't know what possibilities they have to finding another home, which then might lead to foreclosure. So it's hard for the individual, it's all.
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree. And, I will reach out. I have a nonprofit contacts, ATX piece, who deals a lot with that population. And I'll raise it to the receiver. I'll let them know that's a concern.
On the Redfield group, at least one resident expressed interest in working with John to find the resources for the city to help beautify the street, the non-apartment part of Redfield Street. And if y'all know of any other people who want to, whenever we connect with those resources, I'll try to send it to the Redfield group. And I think the North Austin Civic Association beautification committee can maybe help coordinate that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, we'll put it on our little executive agenda.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next thing, just want to welcome up Angela Harris from Lloyd Doggett's office. Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Angela Harris. I am one of Congressman Doggett's field reps here in his Austin district office. I'm just out here going to neighborhood association meetings, just letting people know that we are a resource for you guys here in Austin. Specifically, if you have federal issues, or if you have events in the community that you want the conversation to go to. I think you guys might have connected with Jeopardy at some point. He's off with Planned Parenthood now. So I can drop a couple of my cards if you guys ever want to get in contact, or if you have questions or casework that we can do.
Very awesome. All right. Yeah. Are you gonna be able to stick around for the rest?
Yeah.
Awesome, great. All right, so we'd love to, John, do you feel to come up and, just a little update?
How's everyone doing this evening? Pretty good. Again, a little update on Little Walnut Creek. It's moving pretty good. We're moving pretty fast at getting it done. We've run into some only minor, I say minor, the contractors having some issues. And it amazed me on this one was the biggest issue. Well, we had some parking in the where we're doing the work at. People are parking there, and we've told them more and more, not to park there. And so I went there during the evening and was like, hey, you guys can't be parking here. And they're like, nah, they ain't gonna do nothing, just move the car. And that's what we were doing.
John, just, I realize we have a few members.
Okay.
Here. Would you mind just doing like a little summary of what the project is about?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
totally forgot. Little Walnut Creek, if most of you don't know, Little Walnut Creek, and I'm new to the city myself, so I'm getting all the information from residents and I'm getting it from, at the office. But Little Walnut Creek, I think in April flooded, right? And it was the city's fault. It was based on them not going in and cleaning out the creek and not taking care of what they were supposed to take care of. So it flooded. And one of the things happened, the contractor that was on that project, we replaced that contractor with a new contractor so we could get the job done. And so the new contractor came in, and so that's what we're working on now. And it's in 4 phases. Phase 1 goes from Rutland, Murns Meadow to Parkfield. Okay, that's phase 1. That somehow, I think it's about 2024. Phase 2 is Parkfield to the back of Cook Elementary School. And then that's phase 2. Phase 3 is from the back of the school to the front of the school. And then phase 4 goes all the way up to Boyer. And the idea is that we're installing culverts in the street and building a long trench along there. So it doesn't stop the flooding, but it's supposed to reduce the flooding. And that's where we're at right now. We're in the phase 1 of the project. And so right now we're at Rutland, Burns Meadow to Parkville right now, where the apartments are. Okay, and so right now, what we're doing, we're moving the culverts, but what we ran into was, again, residents parking still where we work at. And so what they're doing is when we get, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, really quick. And who do you represent?
City of Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, City of Austin. Okay, so.
Is that part of the watershed protection?
No, well, we're a new department. So Watershed actually is the sponsor for that. That was who initially, was working on the project and had the contractor. So, give you a little quick history. My department, Capital Delivery Services, started in March. And what it was through the interim city manager. They came up with this department that was supposed to help start managing a lot of these projects that were going on. And I think, from my understanding, I think I'm pretty accurate on this. The city was going out and getting a lot of the bonds, right? They were getting these bonds. And when they were getting the bonds, what was happening was they were getting them without doing the pre-work. So you had a lot of delays going on because when you start the work, you run into all types of organizations. You run environmental organizations when you're trying to do stuff. You run into, this is owned by the electric power company, or this is owned by here. And now you got to go back and negotiate and do that. So Capital Delivery Services is the department now is trying to get those projects up and running and getting them going, but also thinking of better ways to, when we do have projects that need to be done, do the work first before you start asking for the money or going to get.
Yeah, question on that. So I understand you're putting culverts under the streets.
Right.
To Of water, more water gets.
get through.
My understanding is, how much of what you're doing is aimed at establishing a maintenance of keeping the stuff that bottles up those
Mhm.
culverts, keeping that clear?
Well, that was the thing that Little Walnut Creek, and there's different priorities right now. So you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, your high risk. And so Walnut Creek has been identified as a 5. That's high risk. So they have there's supposed to now be a regular maintenance now going on through that all throughout and I think Bella mentioned it at the last meeting that is top priority. This creek over here is the top priority.
So how would we know what that schedule is and when they are coming or should have been there?
So this is what I will do. So, and we haven't had a community engagement person. So my role is to go out there and bring the information back to you guys. So like what you just asked, I don't know the answer to that, but I can get it.
Great.
I can get that answer and I'll bring it to the next meeting and say, hey, this is the routine, how often they're gonna try to go through there and get that done.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, so we have with the issue of that. So what we ended up having to do, we had to repeat people who kept towing because they knew their car wasn't going anywhere. I went to the apartment managers and I expressed to them what was happening. The apartment managers came back and said, well, they don't have to pass to live parking. They don't have to pass the parking to the apartments. They may live there. They don't have to pass it to live, means to park there. So we're starting now, if they're repeat, we're towing the car to the tow yard. And that's we had to because they kept doing it. And when we get there in the morning, we had to wait for them to wake up, move their cars out of the way so we could get work done. The other issue we had, and this was amazing to me, was stealing diesel gas out of the tractor.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Out of the big excavators and stuff, 300-gallon excavators that are out there. But we noticed that they weren't breaking the gates and driving cars and getting in there. They're taking 5-gallon things and trying to empty the car, and they're going back and forth, back and forth. So the contractor's trying to figure out, they're putting locks on everything, trying to get that taken care of on the gas things. But as far as what's happening right now, what we've done, we're digging the trench head right at the park field and at the park. That's where the trenches are starting to be dug. So what we did this week and last week, they dug the trenches. They dug under the trenches to get all the rocks out, and they refilled it back up because now they got to wait for wastewater to put the pipes in, and then they'll come back and then they'll put those culverts in. If you ride by Parkfield, you'll see the big culverts now. They're right there on Burns Meadow, right next to Parkfield, being ready to get put into the ground. I've been going to the apartment managers, telling them what's happening. Like I said, the biggest issue is parking. I think the biggest issue around there is parking because, again, the apartments have tight restrictions on who can park. Even though they live there, it's only, I think she was telling me it's 2 per house that can live there. So if they got 5 or 6 people in the house, everybody else is usually parking where we're doing the work at. And so that's becoming an issue right now. I know the parking manager was telling me some of her residents are wanting to leave because, the work is going on right there. So that's an issue. Other than that, that's about it. I mean, the biggest, but I mean, I think we're moving a little bit faster than what they expected. I'm thinking this project, phase 1, is supposed to go to March 24. That's installing those culverts there. But it's going pretty good. The contractor's doing his job, and we're on it and just every day out there just putting out fires sometimes because, again, that big thing is informing the residents what's happening, especially in that apartment where all the apartments are, because there's a lot going on over there. And, the gas situation, I just had to laugh at that one.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Well, one maybe question request.
Okay.
Would be, one thing that I've noticed, I put in some 311 requests recently to have the creeks themselves maintained. And my request get denied because people are parking on the culverts. So as in the city bus shows up, somebody's parked in the way, where they would operate their vehicles and everything. The request I had to the city was to put no parking, because it's maintenance zone, it's easement, no parking at all where the culverts are. So I'd ask, in preparation, as you move up the street, where the culverts start becoming more common, perhaps you can mitigate some of your obstacles with parking by getting some signs in there.
Yeah, I'll talk to him, because I know we have some right there where we're doing work right now. Okay, they're waiting.
I mean, permanent.
Oh, permanent, yeah. Oh, permanent. Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah.
We need maintenance all.
Right.
Taking the first red.
Yeah. Okay. Then my second question would be, are the culverts at all operable or effective while they're in progress? Or is it a big bang, like, doesn't do anything until the end?
No, well, that was the question. That question was asked at our last meeting, and the engineer indicated as the culverts go in, they are ineffective as they get put in. Yeah, that would, yeah, that's how I know that one. He mentioned it at the last meeting.
Yeah, I was just back on the parking thing. For the special areas you're doing, can you put things out in the street so they can't park there
Well, the issue is,
or something? No, not signs, but physical things, and then take them when you get there.
right, so,
Your truck's there.
so the issue is everything is moving. So
True, they would, yeah.
they can move it and put it back, because yeah, and so, and then the other piece is this, where we're working at, that front of Mern's Meadow. The Accent Apartments, Accent Creek, I think is this the name of the apartment. Their only interest are right there. It's right there on Mern's Meadow, and they only have one access coming out right now. Creek's Edge has enough. They can get out on Rutland, they can get out, they have ways to get out. The other apartments are not as bad, because they can get out on U Street that circles around. They can get out right there. The only one that I think is the one that's getting hurt the most probably is Accent, because they only have those interests right there on Mern's Meadow, and they don't have no other interests. And for us, that's going to become an issue, because we're moving down to exactly right at Parkville next week. And so that's the other entrance they have, and that'll be blocked off. So they got to have emergency anyway, going in and out, just in case ambulance and stuff like that. So that, we got to figure out how to keep that other side open now. But yeah, but it's moving, and that's the good thing. I don't know if you passed by the pond that's there, that's getting filled in. Everything's pretty much done, but it's a lot of digging. I'm out there pretty much every day, and I'm learning myself just about, construction and all the stuff that's going on. And just trying to figure out how do you do a project like this and keep, people happy. That's the biggest part. How do you keep, especially when, yeah.
Point of clarification, you say the project is not going to completely stop the flooding, it's only gonna.
It's gonna reduce it. The reason they say, nobody's gonna guarantee it's gonna stop flooding. I know that the city's not gonna put their name on something to say, hey, it's gonna stop the flooding, because Mother Nature,
Things like that.
Yeah, and like 100-year flood, that's, when it comes, it comes.
But to be clear, that flood was 1 inch, and flooding, the 100-year flood, you're talking about 3.5, 5 inches.
Right.
So that's the problem, is that the city did not clean up the debris.
Exactly.
A 1 inch rain, it wasn't a flood,
Mhm.
rain that turned into a flood.
To a flood.
That's what you're saying, the new culvert should take care of.
Yeah.
But I understand if that once in 100 year, 10 inches falls, nothing's gonna save you.
No, it ain't. It's not gonna stop us. So yeah, and again, I'll come to every meeting and give you guys an update.
Yeah, that's
every
amazing.
time. But I do want, it was 2 questions. I'm gonna get with you guys, because I need to write those down. So I'm gonna get
Schedule.
back and make sure I can have the answer
I
for
can
you.
email them to you, to bring a schedule on the creek. Bring a schedule for how we're gonna manage the creeks, the debris
Yeah,
in
the
the
debris.
creeks.
Okay.
So that's important.
That was the one, and then you had another question on parking.
And then parking.
Yes.
Okay, I'll send that to Mr. Fletcher. And his email is also in the minutes. So, but I'll send it to you. Okay.
So you had a question?
This guy has red curves.
Red curves. I got you.
There are other things that I see all the time where a road is blocked off and there's a post in the ground.
Mhm.
And they take a post out of it, you roll through, you put the post back in. And if that has a lock on it,
They can't, yeah.
exactly, so something like that. I mean, you guys are engineers, we have engineers on the team to come up with something that is not physically difficult to move every day to work. But can be locked
Right, right.
and removed easily.
I think the biggest part, and I'll be done in a second, the biggest part that I've noticed, and again, I'm just learning about construction a lot. You know, I used to do demolitions, I never just put it back up. But I never put it back up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So the amount of area that we're covering, you know, it's that whole street. And so, and then you got all these directions of cars and people coming. So it's like, okay, if you block this one off, something else is gonna be open. If you block this off, and so, and you know, those movable, like I said, those movable pieces that someone was mentioning about putting some there that, and like I said, when they talked about somebody just going in and taking gas, and I was like, how do you get it? They said they cut the fence, you know, all of them are walking back and forth, taking 5 gallons diesel. And they're just telling you the diesel gas.
There's also the barriers that you fill with water that are.
That's what's out there.
That's what's out there.
Yeah, that's what's out there.
Okay, and they're moving.
Oh, they let the water out.
So just one more thing, we hear like more out.
Yeah.
Another thing is, like, while those culverts are in that park, we can't use that park anyway.
Yeah.
Why not just open that up park and get the roads clear for y'all? Like, just let them park in the park.
Well, that's a whole nother,
It's all trucks, they can pop the curb,
yeah.
or you can break down the curbs.
Yeah, it can become a liability issue, because if something happens while they're in that construction, and then, you know, their cars get scratched, or they say the tractors or something hit them, now they're trying to sue the city. And that park area is like, I'm glad that they're moving stuff, but there's a lot of people still use the park. It's just, they're still using it, because I see them all walking, they just can't use that park where those culverts are right now. Yeah. That's it.
All right, cool, thanks, John. Well, you know, mentioned about parks, I think that's a really great segue to another topic we wanted to discuss. Monica, would you build it?
Sure. You know,
Dealing with conflict, so we have to do that. On the city council agenda last week was a vote on the interlocal agreement between the city and AISD regarding joint use facilities. The big issue of concern to where I work, Gava, Go Austin, Vamos Austin, was about joint use parks. They're also known as school parks. Wooldridge, Cook, Barrington, those are the 3 up here. There's 6 others that fall in what's known as Austin's Eastern Crescent. So, in East Austin, Southeast Austin, low income communities. And for our area, we have the least amount of parkland, green space, and urban canopy. So basically, those school parks, years of public investment, private investment, the community doing projects. I remember when I first started my work on Gava, when we came up north, I was part of one of the teams for Wooldridge, and I was walking around with Caro. So a lot of stuff has gone in there, a lot of investment. And the concern is about how important it is, especially for communities that already have a deficit. And so to lose access to that, because we started to hear through unofficial channels that joint use was going to be terminated. That the school, that the schools would be condemned as part of their modernization plan, because they need to upgrade them, need to fix things. And so, you know, things like, where can we put the temporary buildings, things like that, while they're working on it. But when we heard condemned, then we're hearing, well, that means there goes the agreement. That means children families, they lose access to that space to be out in hopefully what fresh air we have that's really hot. I've seen when I lived in on the other side of Lamar, I drive past Barrington a lot. And on the weekend, I'd see adults, men, soccer teams. That's huge in this community. We don't want to lose access, and outside of the downtown area, we're also the most densified with the apartment complexes that they don't have yards per se. They might have a playscape if they're lucky, and that's not much of anything. So we really need to be careful. GABA submitted a statement to council. And I also reached out to 3 council members by email and some of their staff members. And fortunately for council member Fuentes, Vanessa Fuentes, who is for District 2, Southeast Austin, she really stepped up and during the council meeting, well, the video, but she said that she heard from a lot of her constituents as well as community members about their concerns. And she suggested that the issue about the actual joint use of the parks and where that's going, that go on the agenda for the next joint committee between the city, the county, and the school district. Don't have a date for that yet. As soon as I know when, I will definitely inform the officers so they can get the word out. Because that's a public conversation, and that's part of what we spoke about. Mayor Watson did get assurances from interim superintendent Segura, as well as the parks director, Kimberly McNeely, that what they were voting on had no bearing on joint use parks. So that's good for now. No imminent anything, but we need to stay on top of them. GABA is in the process of writing an updated letter. It's going to be written in open letter style, but addressed to the council and the school board. And basically, it's about accountability, reminding them of the investments that have gone in there, the health benefits to the community, all ages, all abilities. And while I wasn't here to necessarily pitch for anything, if anybody would, wants to support, if NACA would like to sign on, let me know. I would be more than happy to add more names to our letter. I mean, I haven't even begun to reach out to people yet, but that'll be happening in the next couple of days. Be assured, no danger of loss of access to those school parks right now. We just need to stay on top of it to make sure that there's an opportunity for public conversation with city council, with the parks board, with that joint committee and the school board. Hopefully that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Well, I mean, does anyone have any questions at all? I mean, I know with Walnut Creek Park, under construction, that we're at a real deficit, compared to the rest of the city. It does have all those green belts. Oh, yeah.
What reasons why they want to get rid
They're saying they don't want to, but sorry. The official word is that it's not going to happen, but we're hearing from people that do a lot of work at those campuses as community members. And because the district has to do a modernization, it's tied to the 2018 bond to update the schools. And 9 of those, there's like 22 schools, and 9 of them are joint use, and they're also in the low income communities. So we're just trying to make sure it doesn't happen. Another point that I have with Segura, he said in the council meeting that AIC would be transparent about the process, the creation of the campus architectural teams. Even when that begins, I'm like, it's already started. I can see that on their website. At least 3 of the 9 schools already have the teams built.
I'm all for the joint use, but I live on Burns Meadow across from Buck, and people are not the people that use the park, like the soccer players. They leave an enormous amount of trash, clothes right into our front yard, and then people use it as a dog, obviously dog park. They don't have their dog food. So I feel like if there's an effort to help clean up the park too,
I'm glad you raised that. All valid concerns. And here's the other thing. AISD does not have a parks department. It is the city's parks department that does the maintenance and the upkeep. And park programming, if it's done at any of the school parks, that's from Parks and Rec, that's the city. Now, as far as addressing trash and stuff like that, I mean, one, that would be, you could do a 311 if it's joint use, or call the school. The other thing, because I know for me personally, advocating at council specifically for Quail Creek Park, is I've heard enough complaints through my work and community work about, I don't want to take my kids there. Because people hiding along at the end of the riparian, drinking, drugs, whatever. And a natural deterrent is an activated park. And so that's what I've been pushing for years, several years, is we need programming in those parks, because the more active it is, the less likely you're going to see issues, because there's no place for them. They're going to be noticed.
When I first heard this news, you know, my first thought was, well, I guess I could see their side potentially, that, you know, because a lot of this initiative by the school is to improve the safety of the schools and to limit access to people who aren't supposed to be there. So, I mean, I could see how it could be argued. And so it's just a matter of, in my opinion, like, as a community, activating the parks, showing up, being there, making use of them.
And that's a valid thing, like I said, but it's not part of the modernization plan or part of the joint use. But anytime you want to advocate for activated parks, it is the budget session or budget season with the school, with the city, which just finished last month. But they also have what's called general communications at every regular council meeting. You register like 3 weeks ahead of time, and I can give you more details on that. Is you don't have to be speaking on something on the agenda. You can talk about anything you want, and there are people that show up talking about chemtrails and singing to him. So those are opportunities to actually have something productive. You have a more or less time that you know, whether you're on the phone or in person, that you can be activating for more park programming, so that we have activated parks. And I saw him.
Well, it's first out that those drainage parks are like such an oasis. Like, I had rented in East Austin and Travis Heights and all, and then moved up here. It's like starving for green space. And rely on them so much. So I appreciate like keeping a vigilant eye on that. And just, do you happen to visit the Navarro track area also?
No, the joint use are elementary campus.
Still enjoy it.
And then also too, I know some of the people who are community people that are getting kind of iffy about that, is because now the schools don't allow you to be on campus. Like, you can have a community meeting, you can't do it without having insurance. You got to go through a whole process. You don't deal with the actual principal. They got a website now that you got to go to, called, I forgot what it's called, facilitator or something, if you want to use.
Facilities management.
Yeah, and you gotta go through the whole process. You gotta have insurance, you gotta have all this stuff. And a lot of community organizations used to use the schools for their meetings. And now they can't unless they gotta come up with the insurance and all that.
Yeah, it's all safety and security concerns.
Do you have insurance?
Yeah, sure. We used to have meetings at the Mirror and Woodridge back in the day.
Still,
Yeah.
do carry insurance.
Well, if anybody has any questions that they come up with later, you can reach me through Missy, and she's welcome to give my work email and phone number.
Thanks, Monica.
All right, well, we did have, wanted to talk about, code, and so Lisa, if you wanna,
Yes.
well, then
And
we get that started.
Code representative was just here. I just want to give y'all, what I'm gonna talk about, like each road, because the draft ideas are there, but also sheet behind, because you can fill out your nomination for where do we want code to focus for the next 3 to 12 months. You know, just, when you're done, guys, if you want to, and what can y'all share? All right.
Whoever wants.
Okay, y'all, look at it. Hold it out and let you hear. Okay. So, I don't, and it's out, but let me explain that we had 18 members of the city of Austin staff with us last month. And 4 or 5 of them were code enforcement related, and including the assistant director. And she suggested to us that during ice cream time, that yes, we could do a top 5 list. And we could really try to focus on 5 things this year where we could make a visible difference. And so that's really what we want the nominations to be of, is an area that's pretty discreet and really can show a huge amount of difference. We know code's busy doing a lot of things you don't see until they don't do it, right? Like making sure things are scooped out of the creek. So here's some examples, but the NACA executive committee, and especially the beautification and safety committee, will be probably developing that final list, and probably pledge it, put it in the newsletter, so we can all as a community push. All right, so for example, this is a very good discrete part. Briardale Drive between Peyton and Peyton Gin, between Owen and Learning 3. There's just a lot of debris from the businesses. Okay, so that was nominated by one of our former cleanup chairperson. And second, I've nominated this because it's very discreet and it's right across the street from the YMCA, Grouse Meadow, just 1 block next to the really well-maintained Running Mead apartments. Grouse Meadow between Runberg and Rutland. I think you couldn't do any worse. So it would be very easy to photograph it before and after. Third, we have 2 addresses on Quail Drive. So another take is to work perhaps on a particular part of the street. We'll see. Quail Creek Tower. Quail Creek Tower. I mean, that's. So I think that deserved a nomination. That was nominated from the Facebook group, and that Carl is so kind to help us manage. I mean, it wasn't your Facebook group. There's 2 Facebook groups that are kind of related to the neighborhood. One's called NACA and Quail Creek Aficionados, and one's called North Austin Civic Association Friends. Well, anyway, that one, and it's also on next door all the time. What's up with that? So I took, and the house, and then there's a single house on Fairfield Drive that has a huge paragraph of things that are really problematic. And so maybe that could make a big difference, especially if that house is maybe harboring some very antisocial activity, not just all grass alone. So those are the kind of nominations we've already gathered. You're very welcome to use the sheet or to send your nomination to the NACA website. NACA-info, and I'm gonna collect them and give them to the beautification committee. We are gonna work with code, and I think we can really maybe, those goals, smart, measurable, time limited, reasonable, right? I really think it's the code department says they're ready to go. They're ready. They just need to be told where to direct their energy. I was like, you came to the right people. You came to the right people.
So that's that was kind of more from the higher ups at code that came yesterday, like you said.
Yeah.
Officer Rodriguez mentioned that you can always call 311, and he is very on top of things.
Beginning of the list. So yes, please continue to call 311 about anything that you think needs to be done. And this is like extra frosting on the cake, right? These are really focused efforts. Hang on.
Just something y'all may have heard before, but I will still repeat. When you call 311 on an issue, you don't want 10 people making 10 different phone calls. That keeps it at the bottom of the priority poll. Do the phone tree style. Pick someone to start. They'll get a service or incident number. They make their complaint, hand it to the next person. I'm calling in. I want to file a complaint. It's related to blah, blah, blah. And it's more calls tied to that same number. That's what moves it up the priority poll.
Okay, I'm gonna put that. Thank you. I'll put that in the minutes when maybe in the next newsletter, because we want to add more power to every effort that we do. That's great. Anyone else have comments or questions we can follow up? Yeah, I get it.
Look, we're just list a couple addresses, Quail Creek, and it says they have issues. There's not gonna be some action, taken
Yeah.
on such a vague description.
Well, perhaps, but I know who, yeah.
I'm pro that.
So if you look under that sheet, there is how to make a nomination and it says contact info, so we can follow up and ask you, what do you mean exactly? Because we want to get that request. So yeah, if you make a vague request, don't worry, we're just gonna ask you more questions.
Because if it's about chickens and eggs, they slide board sign out. Telling people to stop calling code, so maybe someone just got a neighborly conversation with them. 'Cause
Well,
maybe it's a security
absolutely.
Issue, I don't know, but it's a well-maintained house, they got a lot of,
Oh,
they got a lot.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So these are just nominations and ideas and, yeah, I agree that, yeah, I agree with that. So if you wanted to share that sheet, and really you guys can use the back of my sheet too. I'll just leave it over there on the big long table. And that's what we've got going on with code.
Right there, just one moment, please. Okay. Alrighty. So, thank you, Missy.
Oh.
So, yeah, so we did talk about beautification projects. We do have some funding. It seems like there's just a lot of efforts from different angles. And I do have people who have offered to volunteer to help with projects. And I just haven't been able to organize that yet. But I think we do have a lot of momentum and resources. And so I didn't know if there was like maybe a specific thing to talk about now, but I just wanted to let you know that I think getting a committee together to actually make some steps towards our goals.
One of the things, when you say low income communities or neighborhoods or just people who are, hard to reach or hard to serve, one of the things that people assume because they're adults, they know what they're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times when you do like beautification projects, cleanup, it's like a Band-Aid. And so I've been hoping since I just started the city, one of the things I want to do is like start doing like block parties where you get people out. Because a lot of these individuals need to be educated. A lot of them don't know. Really, honestly, they don't know kind of what they do is wrong. It's what they do, but it's not conducive to everybody else that's surrounded them. So somehow doing events where the masses come out, or we entertain and have fun, and somebody's upstage telling, hey, if you are selling eggs, we can do it this way and make it this way, or if you got all the cars or whatever you got going, let's do it this way and make it, because they don't know, and if you go out and clean it up, it's gonna get turned back into the same. So I think educating folks more on a more regular basis, and that's kind of like, again, as a community engagement person, when I started the city, that's been my grand idea since I started. I want to start doing like block parties where people are bringing them out. And then you can say face to face, hey, y'all, this is not what we like. And maybe they can say, oh, well, you'll find people who can sew, cook, and all this stuff that can eventually start helping out. Because if they're not vested into it, then they don't put $1 in, they ain't gonna put $1 out.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's so true. And just to chime in real quick is that I was talking with Officer Rodriguez, and Code, is having a night on October 3rd.
Yeah, National Night Out.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but he was just kind of telling me that they're looking for a place or location to kind of have as their setup so that we can, have people come out and talk with them, get to know. And so just seems, I know it's not too long away, but that could be a wonderful opportunity. Rosie?
I'm gonna piggyback with him. I wanted to ask, I know there's a lot of HOAs within the NACA area. And so is it possible that maybe we could pick one area, or you guys can pick one area every meeting or something? And give us the HOA, like what kind of rules we have, or what kind of, what am I trying to say?
Covenants.
Covenants, yeah, that we have in place for our specific HOA. Because I know a lot of people are moving in and out, and people are buying houses, and they may not be told that they belong to this HOA, and that these are some of the things that, you can do and that you're allowed to do or not do. Because
If I belong to an HOA, I don't know.
Right.
There's only a few condos. There's only a few condos.
You're required to like acknowledge the HOA, and often there's like a move-in fee. Then if you're buying it.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, so I mean, we are a civic association,
Right.
and we are governed by the city and their code and laws. But I mean, just to have a clear, because it's all available on their websites, the city's website, but to have just a clear idea of what it looks like, I mean, I'm not on.
It's only HOA. Your condos, I believe.
Several, HOA communities.
It's primary condo units in this area.
But I'll tell you, every HOA has its own little police car with a photo.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We all find each other.
Exactly.
We find each other, so we pay lots of fines to each other.
Yeah.
I have been curious over
But maybe we're not being good neighbors.
I've lived here for over 30 years, and it has ever explained to me anything. I mean, it's by word of mouth that somebody says something and I pay attention. Like, I didn't know you can't park your RV in your driveway. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the city.
I-
That's a city issue.
Yeah, city, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rosie.
So
Certain areas and not other areas.
yeah, so it's
Okay.
not being enforced.
So we need
Yeah.
more
So,
information.
I mean, people don't know these things, and so then they get
Yeah.
a call to 311, 911, or 311, or whatever.
Sure.
And they get upset with you because who called that in? I didn't know that. was-
Well, is that like maybe could we ask?
I think it's
the
just
code
more
officer to
along,
Present on some of those things, like the most
Yeah.
common violations he's seeing at homes. So that we know, right?
yeah, well, I mean, he's, I personally, I feel like the most effective way is
Education.
along what John was talking about, just kind of getting people together and kind of just as a community agreeing on things and talking and spreading the word and getting everyone kind of just like agreeing on something. Yeah.
Yes, the gentleman code all be here, but usually they'll come and give a warning. So that people can become educated what needs to be done. Might give several warnings before you can actually get a ticket. So there is a mechanism.
Same thing in, you cannot park in your front yard.
Exactly.
That has a very contentious history. That has a very contentious.
Guys, yeah, that comment? Well, it's around, yeah, beautification code, just kind of uplifting the community.
I mean, the goal about the pocket park. Is that on the agenda or is there a committee for that? Or does it need to be a committee for the?
It needs to be a committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to be on the committee.
But, yeah, would you mind heading the committee?
If someone else can help with.
I would help, yeah.
Okay. Cause I understand it's not city funding, so. And after that, I don't know, go fund me, what do I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
Okay,
We do have funding for neighborhood beautification available.
yeah,
So
Sure.
just your ideas, we can vote on it.
okay.
And there's a committee that can help.
I want to ask you, where did we get that 10,000 that we have invested?
That has a long history. Comes from Public Services, which is a recycling company, moved into our neighborhood. They provided funds for us over many years to help with beautification efforts. Several years ago, we took portion of that money, about $10,000, put it into an investment fund. And now, every year, at beginning of the year, we look to see if those investments have gone over $10,000. If so, we skim that off and use that for beautification later on. So that's a perpetual fund. Right now, we have a little over 3,000 available for that.
I wonder if we spent that money, would they give us more? Did they not give us more?
No, they,
Or somebody,
uh,
yeah.
You can apply for grants or find another sponsor, but that source is no longer available.
I think, any other kind of comments or concerns, Carol?
Democrats of NACA, we're having a picnic at Walnut Creek Park on October 1st, 4 to 6 p.m. I'd love to have you there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Suzie.
Oh, I have a question. Does anybody know what project all this material that's being stuffed out under 183 is?
Oh,
And as he was talking about his project, I wondered if that was what it was for. But it's between Jamestown,
State of June.
That's
There we go.
and
Georgia.
and where?
Oh.
Underneath 183, between the two directions of research. What is that for? It's all kinds of beauty pipe and all kinds of stuff. I don't even know what it is.
It looks like fire
They've been adding to it for a couple of months now, and yet I don't know what is it a project in our neighborhood?
it'd be state. That kind of state property, so.
That's it.
You get permission to use it, I suppose.
Well, that would be text dot since it's under the highway. My guess is it may be for upcoming road work over near 183 and 35.
We don't know where, or we don't know.
I'm just guessing right now.
Well, that's something I'll look into. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Speaking of projects. Oh,
He was the first.
sorry. Hey, something that you're saying back on the code thing, we're talking about 311, right? And you said that if someone calls and makes a complaint about something, and then if someone else calls about the same thing, well, if the first person told the other person what that was, so the second person can say, oh, I'm calling about.
Right. There's an actual number.
Yeah.
There's a complaint number.
So let's look at that on a practical application. That means if I want to file a complaint to about something, then I need to go to all my neighbors and say, hey, I filed a complaint and the number is this. So if you want to file a complaint to really get it up a level, then use this number. As opposed to having the city hire a programmer who could build a program to scan the complaints and file and see, oh, here are 20 complaints. They don't have the same number, but they're all about the same thing in the same area.
I mean, it's
Doesn't that make a lot more sense to get this stuff done.
You think it's, yeah, it's like 2023 and then.
Yeah, exactly. Like they,
Might make
but
a lot of
also
money
it's
if you-
saying that's the hack for now. That's the hack that she's suggesting for now.
So if it's gonna go into. What has to be done to get that? Going back to the flood thing, I was involved and I went down to the county and we heard 25, 30, sometimes 40 people saying, well, I can call 311. Well, I did too. Well, I did too. Well, I did too. I didn't ever go up the scale. What do we have to do to get that to happen?
Oh, short of, sorry, I saw
No,
you.
you go first.
Okay, part of the reason I know this trick is because I worked at Austin Code for 6 months in community engagement on a pilot project. So being on the inside, you learn some stuff. And other than that trick, how do you move things? You advocate at city council. You invite code staff to your community and neighborhood association meetings. That's the only real way is to advocate. And as far as sharing the number, I don't literally need it with all your neighbors, but because your next door neighbor may not see it as a problem. So it's more people you know who are basically on the same page as you are. So when we talk about it in here, then you know, okay, let's make a list of everybody that wants to report this and then just go from there.
As I remember, you go call 311. And you get a number from 311, they close that and then open a different code, but in the code department. So.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that's true, because that initial number you get, it's closed, and people think that means the case is closed. All it means is that it's been assigned. And then there's an actual case number. But for right now, it's that actual first number that you want to go with, because they can still look that up.
Okay.
Here's the only, like, well, they have a better system. They just invested, I think they were telling us they had just updated the system by April. They said they put a ton of money into it, and it's the exact same. We're still seeing the same things where it says future road plan. That's it, man. No data, just, all right, so, and then it's closed.
This will be about the fifth time of month. But it's computer system.
Oh, it's not good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, from my experience, they use technology that's tried and true. So, you know, it's after it's been tested and all that. So it's usually outdated once it's installed by the city. The government's the last to have it. Mhm.
Also, just for anybody, I mean, that it matters is the system is called Amanda. Code isn't the only one that uses it. Also, police department uses it, fire department uses it, EMS uses it, so it's used by multiple departments. I have personally advocated for, you need to upgrade your leaping system.
Oh, hey, good caller just called about that.
It's a different route, it doesn't go through the same people, like I said, it's different parts, I'm sure, I'm not the programmer. All I know is it's just they all use the Amanda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just want to say FYI, I just got an email from my union. Evidently, Lloyd Doggett and Mayor Watson are having an event this weekend to, talk about a Project Connect. That's working, so that's for that. I know that, we live right down the street from that transit. I know that's gonna be a lot of construction. Going on, so I haven't been really keeping up with all the pros and cons, so I don't really know how that's gonna affect. I live, the traffic's already bad. I have to go that way, so but I'm gonna go to that event Sunday here.
Yeah, we had the design team from Project Connect come out here and do a presentation, and Cheeto Bella was here as well to give us some more information. Sounds like they're pushing for a project like that, especially to come all the way up here to North Austin, and that it's a far shot for that. That might not likely will not come all the way up here, but yeah, I'm interested. Like, please, I'm very excited to hear that. Seems like people from the state level it's happening. It seems like it's happening. Do you know anything about that, Angela?
I think it's not Project Connect specifically, it's just general public transportation in Austin, trying to make investments needed so that we have buses that are eco-friendly in the future and that run on time and that serves a greater majority of Austin. I know there has been talk about a line running from Lamar Transit Center down to South Congress and eventually getting stretched out to the airport. But I think this rally on Sunday is general public transportation in Austin.
All right.
Just mentioned that October 10th is the last day to register to vote, time for the November 7th election. It's, there's a bunch of state constitution amendments on there. I personally need to do my research, but
it's always important to vote, and so if you're moved recently, it's time to update. You know, anybody who hasn't voted in a while, so you just double check that you're still registered. They'll probably be voting in here on November 7th. And to, Travis County bond issues. To Travis County bond issues, so for transportation on the front. These smaller off-cycle, like off the main presidential, federal elections, they're the most important. Your vote's gonna count the most because fewer people are gonna vote, so it's even more important to vote. It's local stuff that's gonna affect you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, just to maybe give a little history, and I don't know the history of the area, but currently we have the largest population in our district of all of Austin, greater Austin. But we have the lowest voter turnout. And in a large way, it's because we have a number of people or, yeah, just not qualified to vote, but still, you know, have, you know, need assistance
Yeah.
or just, you know, we all benefit from all of those items that are on the ballot.
And it's also just a reminder, like in Texas, you have to fill out a paper form to register to vote. You cannot do it online. You can download the form and mail it in, make sure that it's postmarked in time by October 10th. There'll be voter registration drives probably happening the week of you can vote Travis.com.
On October 10th.
And on October 10th, yeah, you can register on October 10th. There'll be a lot of places. Like Feather Cloud usually posts a drive. There's lots of them. You go to votetravis.com. There'll be some resources there.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's you have to do it 30 days before the election. And you know, there's a lot of legislation that's been passed to try and make it harder for people to vote and take people off the rolls and intimidate people into not voting if they're not sure. So, you know, you should vote.
it seems like a lot of our, you know, the residents in apartments,
Mhm.
you know, they just don't know about this information.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if we have anything in place to get information out to the people in our community.
Especially if you moved to Travis County from a different county, you need to register as a new voter. Just confusing.
I came here to ask about Linear High School. I got a notice from the city of Austin that they're getting ready to use the bonds that were voted for in 2022. You know, does anybody know what they're up to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they gonna add stories to this building? What is
Phase
that
one,
do?
phase one is mostly about the outside of the building. It's not adding stories. I don't know what's gonna happen in phase two and phase three. That would be funded by a bond in 2027 or 2028 or 2029. Phase one is to provide a secure vestibule entrance. I don't know if you're in the
Okay.
school.
Okay.
Right now, you walk into the school and you walk into the school and the offices. Yeah, well, that's the violation of state law.
Okay.
They're going to be installing fencing. They're going to be putting in a turf field, AstroTurf type field, so that the B teams don't have to play on Tuesday nights because the stadiums are so busy.
Okay.
So they're going to be able to play their B team games. At each high school campus is going to have a turf field, every single high school in the district. That's most of what's going to happen in the first go round is safety, security, and turf fields.
Okay, all right. Cause I got this notice and I've been in this community for a long, long time and I only got one other notice. Cause they were working on a sewer and that was 30 years ago. Now I get this notice and I say, they want to buy my house. I didn't understand what they said.
They're sending the letters because in the past, these projects have been poorly managed. And they come and they create a huge ruckus and they tear down the school, they have construction noise. And wouldn't have told any of the neighbors what was gonna happen.
Yeah, and I appreciate the letter. I just didn't know whether I should get ready to move or not.
We got answers for you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Come back next time, all right? And speaking of voting, we have Davey, results from our vote.
All right.
House is our logo and it will be on the t-shirt, the house,
Okay.
and the color will be blue.
Okay.
Yeah, and so here, the piece of look will be our logo. Now, just ignore the blue, because that's actually the back of the t-shirt. So our logo will be just like, it will be just black and white, look like this. So here you go.
All right.
Hi.
Great. Well, that's all I have. Does anyone want to end the meeting?
I make a motion to end.
Oh, you.
All right. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have been hosting a national night out. There's an address and your